Interview of Sanjay Verma, expelled Indian diplomat. Let's listen.
में बहुत सारे टाइम से तो ऑटवा के टाइम से 11:59 रात्रि अक्टूबर 19।
और अगर आप ना जाते तो शायद आप अरेस्ट भी हो सकते थे।
अगर मैं नहीं जाता तो मेरी डिप्लोमेटिक कम्युनिटी ख़त्म हो जाती और मैं उनका जो इन्वेस्टिगेटिव प्रोसेस है उसमें मुझको जबरन शामिल किया जाता।
आपने 36 साल के अपने डिप्लोमेटिक करियर में आप जापान के एम्बेसडर रहे हैं, सूडान के एम्बेसडर रहे हैं, कौंसल जनरल रहे हैं कई जगह पे, अब कनाडा के एम्बेसडर, हाई कमिश्नर, आपने बहुत सारे अप्स एंड डाउन्स देखे होंगे। डू यू थिंक दिस इज, वेयर वुड यू रैंक दिस? इज इट लाइक द वर्स्ट एक्सपीरियंस यू हैव एवर हैड?
दिस इज द पिट्स एंड दिस इज द मोस्ट अनप्रोफेशनल अप्रोच टू अ बायलैटरल रिलेशन. If they really believe that it is a large relationship for them as well, there are other diplomatic tools available in the hands of a diplomat, and those tools could have been used in order to see things falling in place as they had wished.
This is not the kind of behavior or an experience that you would expect from a thriving democracy.
Absolutely not.
And all this is because of the Khalistan problem. Can you just tell us a little bit about the genesis of the Khalistan problem in Canada, basically? How did Canada become a hotbed of this movement?
See, Canada had been a place where migration from India took place from early 20th century, so 1900s, early 1900s. And in fact, first when the first ship arrived there, a Japanese ship which had Indians at that time. We were still a colony of Britain. So when they arrived, the Canadians did not allow them to berth. And many Indians on that ship perished without food. So a lot of atrocities are there in the history on people of Indian origin. And after a lot of persuasion, but also due to fear of a backlash globally, the ship was allowed to dock in Vancouver. Then they got down. So that was the first larger wave of our brothers and sisters going from here to Canada. A number of them were in the Sikh community. They were absolutely patriotic Indians. They kept the Indian flag flying high. They could not get their voting rights till 1940s. Though they were staying in Canada, they were citizens of Canada, but they didn't have the voting rights. They fought for it, they got the voting rights. Then moving forward, many of pro-Khalistan elements, including extremists and terrorists, they found refuge in Canada. And now I'm talking about 1980s. So they found refuge in Canada due to lenient Canadian legal system. They were able to get their permanent residence in Canada, citizenship in Canada. They sought asylum in Canada on fictitious grounds. And all of them then settled down there. Then they started doing something which was completely against a good India-Canada bilateral relation, from their perspective, Canada-India bilateral relations. And the first such example that we see was bombing of Air India flight Kanishka. When that happened, and we had been tracking some of these conversations which were going on, and the Canadian RCMP, which is federal police as well as investigating agency, they were kept fed that, look, these are the conversation and threads that we are picking, and there is a possibility that they will harm Air India flight. But it was not taken so seriously, and that resulted into unnecessary loss of so many lives. 329 on the aircraft. Then there was another bomb which exploded in Narita, Japan, which killed handlers. So many people lost their lives. it took a long time for them to reach a stage where judicial pronouncement could be given out. It took more than 15 years for the first one. And there it was all pro-Khalistan extremists and terrorists.
It's very ironical that the Khalistan movement in India has completely died down. It is sort of flourishing in distant shores, including in Canada. Canada has the largest number of Sikh population outside India. What percentage of that population would you say supports Khalistan?
See, if I look at today, I will not go into the historical projection. So if I look today, I would say that about 10,000 of people in the Sikh community in Canada would be hardline Khalistanis.
Only 10,000?
Only 10,000. So it's just a handful. But they have made Khalistan into a business. In the name of Khalistan, they do human trafficking, they do drug trafficking, they do gun running. So they earn a lot of money through that. Then a lot of money would be collected in the Gurudwaras, place of reverence and religious worship. And then they would use a part of that money into all nefarious jobs. So what then they do is, since that is the business for them, then these 10,000 intimidate others to join in. So for an example, someone will say that, I know where your daughter goes for education, studies. So people get intimidated. So I would say if you take those who are intimidated and those who are hardliner Khalistani extremists based out of Canada, I would put the figure at about 100,000, 1 lakh.
Okay. That's a very small number compared to the overall population.
But they have a huge, they shout aloud. And therefore, the babies are fed who shouts aloud. So therefore they are fed. And they have political influence. They had been
fed by the Canadian authorities, by the Canadian government, Canadian political system.
Canadian system overall.
Overall.
So if today I look at it, almost every Canadian law and order vertical has got in it the pro-Khalistan elements. So that infiltration, and it includes their defense forces. So that infiltration is there, due to which they have been able to get their way. If I look at the Canadian Parliament, there are a number of parliamentarians who are known to have voiced opinions on challenging the territorial integrity of India, sovereignty of India, on record. So as a fellow democracy, I would have thought that they will never talk of disintegration of India or further division of India. Territorial integrity is supreme.
So we'll have to go into the political system of Canada to understand why the administration does not crack down. I mean, to us, it is so logical that here is a group of people which wants to destroy India, to harm India, and they are living in a friendly country, but the friendly country is doing nothing to stop them. Why is it? Is it because the country is made up of a large number of immigrants from different areas? Do they become political constituencies which support the system?
Very much so. How we see Canadian foreign policy, and that's my analysis, I may be absolutely off the track, but it has got a lot of diasporic inputs. And these diaspora which are there in Canada, including diaspora from India, they are stakeholders in their foreign policy. Okay.
So that was the interview with Sanjay Verma, India's outgoing commissioner to Canada, who was in fact recalled by New Delhi last week, breaking his silence on the ongoing standoff between India and Canada, the kind of treatment that is meted out to the diplomats there specifically. With this, we will slip into a very, very short break. More news and updates coming your way on the other side. Stay with us.